Sagittarius, this is your week ahead astrology forecast from Astrology Motivation by Born Without Boundaries. This is a reading that will basically review for this week the major planetary aspects and transits and how those aspects and transits impact your natal sun and what that means for your day-to-day. We're going to start really broad with the big stuff that everybody should be aware of, and then we're going to focus on Sagittarius specific movements, etc., and then we're going to break things down into the decans, which is a group of 10 degrees, and every zodiac sign has 3 decans because every zodiac sign is a total of 30 degrees. And with those 10 degree differences, we're going to be able to get really, really specific into this video as to what is actually impacting your natal sun, not all Sagittarius's natal suns, because they're not all impacted or affected the same way. For this video, you will need your birth date. You'll be able to enjoy the message and understand things just based on the birth date. But what's most accurate is to get your natal chart. And you can get that for free on many different websites on the internet. Just search free natal chart and a bunch of websites come up. You need your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location in the USA. All of that stuff can be found on your birth certificate. Outside of the U.S., I'm not really sure. I've been told that not all that information is on all birth certificates internationally, but I know you can find the information somewhere. And with that information, you'll get your natal chart in a couple of seconds, and then you'll know at which degree in Sagittarius your natal sun is actually located on. And you'll get to just delve into all the beauty and wonder of astrology. It's where all astrologers begin their natal chart. So let's jump into the big stuff this week, Sagittarius. Well, first of all, on the 17th, there is a new moon in Gemini. New moon in Gemini is going to be trine the South Node, square to Neptune, and semi-square to the Venus-Mars conjunction. Venus-Mars start to conjunct on the 16th, 17th. Some people will argue before then, but for me, it's not a real conjunction until it's within 5 degrees. So it's around the 17th when Venus and Mars will be within 5 degrees of each other in the zodiac sign of Leo. That is intense energy when it comes to romance, vitality, virility, sexuality, sensuality, really, really sexuality especially. So, I don't know, could be some fun times. The fact that it is semi-square this new moon could mean there is some stubbornness involved or some conversations that need to happen that could rile things up a little bit. The new moon in Gemini is going to be happening in direct opposition to a couple of your natal suns, and we'll get into that since Gemini is directly opposite from Sagittarius on the zodiac wheel. But really, new moon in Gemini is all about new conversations, new friendships, opening up to new ideas, new education, new information coming in. All of those things actually are really wonderful. But this square to Neptune could mean it could challenge some delusions or incorrect assumptions or fantasies that a lot of people had. So I would trust the new information that's coming in, not the old things that you believed. You know, sometimes you might just have to learn to believe something different when new information comes in, and this is where we might find the challenge this week. We also have I'm reading all this off my notepad. You know, I always take notes. We also have Saturn on the 17th going into retrograde. So a lot of stuff is happening around the 17th of this week. It kind of all compiles together. Saturn in retrograde, I think it's about 7 degrees Pisces that it's happening in. Now listen, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, they go retrograde around this time every single year. At least since I've been alive. I don't know historically if it's all the time, but since I've been alive and I'm in my 40s, it's every summer that the big planets go in retrograde. And or the distant planets, the outer planets, because Pluto is really not that big. It's not even technically a planet. But anyway, the outer planets, they go into retrograde. it just slows everything down. And I think in the Northern Hemisphere, we're real lucky because we get to slow down at this time of the year because it's summertime and a lot of us take vacations or kick back. A lot of us get, half day Fridays or, Fridays work from home, casual Friday, like it's a little bit more laid back, and it should be. I don't think overall it's a nasty period. I think it's a lovely period of reflection and allowing yourself to have a slower pace. And if you allow those things, it gets much easier to enjoy. If you resist it, you'll have absolutely a horrible time. You can't resist these retrogrades. They're bigger than you and they generate too much energy. So go with the flow. Saturn in retrograde is very almost reviewing, in review, right? Different things can come up and processes can slow down, especially with business and job activities. Now, Saturn is going to be trine to Jupiter this week as well. That is one of the most productive energies in astrology. When Jupiter sextiles Saturn, there is so much expansion and opportunity when it comes to work potential. And so but because it's a sextile and it involves Jupiter, it's not something that you have to work really hard for. It's something that you have to be open to it. Just be open to it, and you can get a lot of opportunities coming in with regards to work. We also have Mercury sextile Venus this week, which is a beautiful energy of perfect communication, grace and eloquence in communication, in your thought processes, could even be sort of artistic or creative, writing or communication that you're doing. This is also a very loving energy, maybe loving messages coming through. So we have a lot of, I think, nice stuff happening this week, though I've heard other astrologers predict otherwise. Go and check them out as well, of course, but I'm very curious and excited about the energy this week. Let's dive into Sagittarius specific, shall we? So when we look at Sagittarius, we always got to look at the sign of Sagittarius, like what is happening in the zodiac sign. Are there any planets? Are there any major conjunctions? What's happening? So in Sagittarius right now, there's pretty much nothing. There's no big major inner or outer planets there, no big planetoids there. There's not much going on. That's nice, but that doesn't mean you're not impacted. It just means that in terms of your natal suns, nothing is going to be conjuncting any of your natal suns this week. But we got to look at Jupiter. Jupiter is your ruling dignitary, and wherever it is, it will kind of color what you're going through, and whatever it's aspected to will kind of color the general energy of your week or your month, or even your year. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, you know that, right? You know what that means. So Jupiter is still in Taurus, and I think it's about 5 degrees Taurus. It is still conjunct the North Node. It is still opposite the South Node. For this week, though, let me say this to you. It is square to Venus, which ends on the 18th. I wrote this down. And it is sextile to Saturn. So ultimately, there's a lot of excessiveness and intensity and overindulgence, but there's also a lot of opportunity in there when it comes to Jupiter. And I got to say, I think that in a lot of ways, the opportunities that are opening up could kind of force you into seeing how you have been overindulging and maybe what changes that you have to make, or maybe things are going to be happening too fast for you, which is always kind of a good problem to have. Let's get into the decans. If your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Sagittarius, you are in decan 1, and therefore you are Sagittarius 1. In terms of birth dates, this usually correlates to November Sagittarians. So those of you on the Scorpio Sagittarius cusp, anywhere between November 22nd and November 30th, or even December 1st. So that's the kind of span of birthdays that you could probably would fit into those degrees of decan 1. Your natal suns are in if you're Scorpio cusps, a long-term sextile to Pluto. We have talked about this before, and a square to Saturn. We have also talked about that before. I think Pluto, the sextile to Pluto, and what dynamic changes and extremes you're going through will have just shifted right now, especially when it comes to jobs and work, because Pluto went back into Capricorn last week. And Saturn, this square that you have all year long to Saturn, Saturn going into retrograde may make those challenges even bigger because the retrograde may slow things down a little bit, but it could also take the heat off of any kind of tension with rules, laws, regulations, etc. That's just something to be aware of. If you are at the Scorpio cusp, you're also trine to Neptune, but only those people at the cusp. So say November 22nd, maybe 23rd, are trine to Neptune, which is creative energy. It is beautiful, just kind of expansive energy when it comes to how you create, what you create, having all these wonderful ideas on your mind, and really getting in tune with your psychic energy and abilities, your spiritual understandings, and maybe even getting interested in different kinds of spirituality as well. That's also long term. This week, we have the quincunx to Jupiter conjunct the North Node, which is trouble moving forward or friction moving forward. Maybe things are going too fast, or maybe you just the opportunities aren't coming in the right areas. But we also have a trine to Venus through the 16th of this week. If you are, say, around November 1st, if your birthday's around November 1st, you'll really feel this trine to Venus all week. What does that mean? It means blessings when it comes to your romance relationships. It means it's a great time to flirt. It's a great time to date. It's a great time to fall in love with your spouse again. It's also a great time to redo your hair, redo your house. It's a great time to even, in some ways, sign larger financial commitments or make bigger purchases. It could be really easy, a little too easy for you to spend money this week. So that being said, this week takes on a kind of very romantic, fluid, optimistic energy. So that could be very, very nice for you guys. You are not the Sagittarians in direct opposition to the new moon. That is not you guys. Sagittarius 2s. If your natal suns are between 10 and 19 degrees Sagittarius, you are Sagittarius 2s. This usually correlates between, say, December, maybe December 1st some years, but definitely December 2nd through the, say, 10th or 11th. In and around there would be Sagittarius 2s. Your natal suns are in direct opposition to Mercury, who has transited into Gemini. That means its own little mini Mercury retrograde, like information not coming in, things going kind of wacky or haywire. It will only last a week, but there can be a great deal of tension caused by it. But everything else, let me say this to you, beautiful energy. You have a trine to Venus and a trine to Mars all week long, which means you are trine to the Venus-Mars conjunction that starts on the 17th, and you are trine to Chiron, especially when it comes to your romantic relationships or financial situations. You're going to start to see something harmonizing. You're going to start to see that energy starting to harmonize itself. Beautiful opportunities and vitality and sexuality and sensuality coming to the surface. Maybe even healing of some old physical wounds. This is really pretty energy. I like it a lot. A lot of divine feminine, divine masculine energy going on. Understanding yourself, feeling whole, feeling complete, or just feeling romantic and flirtatious. I really like this energy. The opposition to Mercury will trip you up a little bit, but I think that there will be a general optimism that won't let it get you down. So I like that. Sagittarius 3s, it's you guys whose natal suns are going to be in direct opposition to the new moon on the 17th. So if your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Sagittarius, you are a Sagittarius 3. This usually correlates to birthdays between the 11th or 12th through the 21st of December. That's you guys. Your natal suns are in direct opposition to the new moon on the 17th. Opposition to the new moons is really interesting because it's like your sun is then going to be in opposition to the moon. And when suns are in opposition to the moon, It's a full moon. But this is a new moon, which is really interesting. There's a sense of you're going to have to release a lot on this new moon. Get it out of the way. It's almost like a huge release and a whole new cycle beginning. Like you have to let go of a whole bunch of stuff, especially emotional stuff, and there's something brand new coming for you. So it will be very emotional for you. Doesn't have to be bad emotion, just extreme almost. We also then, therefore, the whole week long, your natal suns are in opposition to the current sun. Now, that could mean feeling weird about yourself, feeling self-conscious about yourself. That could mean just been basically having this feeling that, you know, maybe your self-confidence is a little bit compromised. There's also, of course, a square to Neptune, which means it's not real. Like there's a lot of illusion or disillusionment that's actually tricking you to maybe feel this way or believe these things. And you also have a long-term quincunx to Uranus, mostly if you are born around November 11th and 12th. And that's long term, which means you're getting thrown weird ass curveballs, especially with technology, left and right for the next year. Just an FYI, especially you guys. But I think overall, this new moon is asking you to let go of the disillusionment or the delusions and self-consciousness that you've had over yourself, you know, especially when it comes to losing yourself in dreams and fantasies or letting that fantasy world become a comparison that you use to the things that are going on in front of you that could be actually quite lovely. This new moon is going to give you a chance to have a new beginning, but only if you let it in, which means releasing a lot of these old beliefs that are making you feel bad about yourself. Just an FYI. Let me know in the comments below how all this energy is impacting you. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. My goal over here is to have 10,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, and we're almost there. So I think we got it. And then please come on over and join me for my weekly tarot card reading on Born Without Boundaries Tarot. I love you guys, and I really hope you love these videos. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.